Hello and welcome back to You the Vibe, You the Vibe, You the Vibe, You the Vibe. I always have to sing it a little when we get started. I'm wearing my On the Daily from Julia Vaughn, who was one of our guests on the show last week or a couple times before. Hi, Aisha, how are you? I'm so excited to have this conversation with our next guest. Hello, Michaela. Hello, all newcomers coming in. I'm so excited to have this conversation with our next guest. I think that she's not only dangerous and exciting and interesting, I'm so excited to see what goes on behind the scenes in her world, what she's all about. I want to get to know her, and that's really what this show is all about, is having conversations that allow you to get to know the people you're seeing online who are doing dope things. So I'm going to bring on Aisha Ophelia. She calls herself the spiritual provocateur for hire. I know I was going to fuck up that word, but let's get her on here. I'm so excited. Got my little background in here. Hello. I love the little mic.
I mean, your introduction, and then I was just kind of like sleuthing on your page, and I'm like, she's a boldness coach. I better wear a lip, and I better get out my tiny microphone.
Yes. I'm celebrating you and celebrating that. Thank you for coming on. I did my little bold lip before I jumped on. I love the mic. It's a vibe.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm waving to all the people. If y'all got questions, comments, things you want to thread through the conversation, please jump in, drop them in. I would love to thread that through whatever we decide to talk about. I mean, the first thing I really want to ask you, and it kind of helps you introduce yourself, on your tagline, on your bio, spiritual provocateur for hire. Can you tell me what that's about? What does that mean to you? Why that title?
Well, I think so when something's provoked out of you, it's almost like, how do I want to describe it this time? I feel like, yeah, I think provocation is an art, and sometimes it takes a little bit of a poke to really get us out of our comfort zone, really into the zone that we want to be in. And so I think you can do it in such a way where all parties feel welcomed and seen. But yeah, I like to kind of, I like to talk about things that people get really uncomfortable with. I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, so that's death and sex and money, amongst other things, plant medicine, things like that. So it's not a title that I think I earned until fairly recently. So it's been fun to have that come back around.
How long have you been online doing what you do?
I guess in this capacity, we are at the 7-year mark.
Wow.
So, yeah, just 7 years of pouring in. But I think before that, I was like gearing up to be in the position to do it because and I still identify as an introvert. I get a lot of energy from just like being in the workshop, doing my own thing. Yeah. But it was time. It was like my guides. I just had a feeling, it's time. And so I've just been slowly pouring into this space over the last 7 years.
I mean, one of the things that you've inadvertently taught me just by being in your world and your energy when I started following you a couple of months ago was allowing people to just express without trying to curtail it or try to make it into something that it isn't, or getting defensive and reactive. You welcome all of these opinions. In fact, I feel like you poke the bear intentionally, or you invite people to do so. And so I would love to know, how does that feel for you on a daily basis, like emotionally, like capacity wise? How are you in terms of handling all of that?
That's a good question. And I think the pros far outweigh the cons. And I'll just say that I've just noticed that there's not very many safe spaces to come and have questions. People are so afraid of saying the wrong thing.
Yes.
And when you're walking on eggshells, you don't really have an opportunity to learn. So I wanted a place where we could sort of fumble, talk about all kinds of ideas without having to worry about, judgment. I think part of our duty as people is to sort of entertain things that are out of our comfort zone. So for a while, for me, that was aliens. And now it's like, okay, of course, we're not, you know what I mean? Like, of course, we're not here alone. And, some of the cons have just been that I can feel misunderstood, and that can be sort of a lonely feeling, because it's like I mean well from my heart, and there's no way to know with so many people in the world with their backgrounds what's going to feel like, okay, that was an okay poke, and okay, no, that was too much. You're this and that. And so I've had, that hasn't happened much at all. And honestly, this might be like a little TMI, but the only people it's happened to me with are people that know me, who's like, I've sat on their couches. I'm like, wait, why are we confused?
Yes! Oh
It's
my
like,
God!
you
I
know
was
me.
just having this conversation with one of my friends yesterday. I'm dead. Like the synchronicities. Oh, this is crazy. I
Yeah.
feel that. I feel that so intensely.
So, for the most part, the notes that I get are the exact feedback I want to get about the space I'm creating. And what you're
Yeah.
saying is what people are feeling. So I know, like, I just have to continue to hold that space. And that's what I've
Yeah.
realized, sort of, being a bit of an introvert. And then I have a question for you.
Tell me. Oh,
Yeah,
I love it.
how to, like, I love being in community with people. I don't want to be the one necessarily on the stage talking for an hour and a half. I want
Yeah.
to ask a question and see what you're thinking, and sort of, have people to riff off. And that's why I love just having conversations so much more
Yeah.
than, yeah.
You really are
So,
taking me up on that too, because it very much is me usually asking questions. And I said to you, I was like, I love having conversations, and you're honoring that right out the gate. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Like,
you're welcome. I mean, I think it is so energetic. And when I took some time to look through what you were doing, I was so, there's so much beautiful content, by the way, but I
thank
loved
you.
I'm all about titles and just like a little snippet that gets people understanding who you are. And when I read that you were a boldness coach, I was like, okay, yes, yes. And my question just is like,
Tell me.
how did you come to be, in your courage, or in your own boldness?
I think it came down to emotional resiliency. That was first, especially if you're going to be online or you're in these spaces where you're interacting with so many different people. And I think that's kind of the beauty of the timing of having found someone like you in this space, because you were doing things that were bold. You were
Mhm.
saying things that were bold and interesting and provocative, evocative, and it forced me to question myself and challenge myself. And honestly, the title boldness coach, I just switched it to mentor. I kind of feeling that out. It's an iteration that just keeps
Exactly.
metamorphosizing as I go. One thing I noticed is that I always sort of felt like a wallflower or the ugly duckling.
Mhm.
I had to keep quiet, be bendable, biddable, um, and reserved, because what I had to say might put somebody in an uncomfortable space. And if they're
Yeah,
uncomfortable, that means I'm uncomfortable. There's no safety. There's no chance for connection and communication.
exactly.
So I want to bring women out of that shell, get them out of that space of resisting themselves, embracing their own emotional turbulence and chaos, and also making them less responsible for other people's perception and reaction to
Yes.
them.
Are you in my head? I was so painfully shy, and I really think that's like how I honed my own genius, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like I had such a big inner world, and not a lot of people knew. So, like, sort of like coming out as yourself when it's time, it's almost that like
Yes.
incubation period. So I just so relate to that being your story of boldness. It always starts like this, and then you're
Yes.
like,
And I
yeah,
think for some people it feels like, I think there's like a worry or a misconception that it has to be like this explosion that creates shrapnel, and it's like intense, and like, you're going to take out and level buildings, which for some people that might be the case, and that might be your vibe and your story. But for me, it didn't really feel like that. For me, it just felt like stretching out my wings more
yeah,
and more over time. And I think that was right for me also, just because I needed to master my relationship with safety, or practice it,
yeah.
which really is just
Hmm.
mastering, you know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
it's not
Yeah.
this like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill people with my interior processing and expression and it coming forward. You're not damaging, I think, the world or the ecosystem around you. You're actually
No.
enhancing it. You're bringing it forward.
Oh, that's such a beautiful way to put it. And that's how it's been for me, this slow, gradual, um, coming into who I am. And there
Mm,
is something to be said about, I don't know, I think if you're a sensitive person, that might
yes.
be part of your path inherently. And
Yeah.
so I always was, and I didn't really have words for that. And then as I've grown in the spiritual community, there's words like empath, there's words like highly sensitive, and
Yes.
even people who are on the spectrum of autism are highly sensitive people. And so when you are that way, safety is so much of a thing. And so it is this gradual, but then it's almost like your roots get like stronger and more fortified too. I don't know. It just all
Mm.
works. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's surprising to me though, that as you're talking, as you're saying that, you're saying it was you coming into your awareness over the course of 7 years.
Yeah.
I think people would stop and see you as you are. And it's so true of social media. Like, it's like a snapshot and they just see the snapshot, but not everything it took to sort of create it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you want to talk about the stuff over there? Hold
Yeah.
on. It's like it's dealing with death. It's like all the things that you think need to be in your closet actually are the things that really create the beauty within you, especially if you don't let them stay as festering wounds and you like incorporate it into your wisdom. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I'm always curious about people when I meet them now because I'm like, okay, I'm seeing this like version of you, but what's all around here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Do
that's
you
been
ever
very
get
much
that
my
feeling that
experience.
you're seeing something and because they don't see that it's there, it's almost like you're talking to two different people?
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And
Yeah.
I think we all just need to remember that, this space is curated and there's like a whole, not everyone's on here trying to make a highlight reel, but we do want to like show up and give our best. And,
Yeah.
sometimes that looks like totally different than your best. Sometimes it's just like I got up and I moved through my day and I didn't,
Mm.
whatever. So,
Some of your stories, I feel like, highlight that, where you can tell you're not you're not hustling and
yeah.
grinding over here. You're just being.
Hmm.
And I think that's really what's so beautiful about everything I see that you do from my side, on the side of the consumer of it all,
Hmm.
is I feel like it's all just a lot of being. I'm sure maybe there is some kind of strategy behind it. Maybe, I don't even know. But I feel like it exudes this authenticity because it's a result of who you're being.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna like lean in. I was gonna pan into camera and be like, authenticity is, I think, what we're all hungry for, and that's what's really important to me. So I do
Yeah.
try to just show up as I am. Like one year I had this birthday party and it was like a parade, and it was just come as you are. Like whatever that
Mm.
means to you. If there's like an inner you that I haven't seen yet and you show up and it's like I'm just gonna like greet you. I'm not gonna like make you feel bad about it. So
Oh, where was I at that?
I
I
know,
need to
right?
come.
Now that I know you, yeah, it was so much fun. We just had a little parade, we had music, and that was the theme. It was come as you are. And so that's really how I try to hold groups. It's like sometimes you come and you feel low and you just need to turn your camera off. Just come, show up. So
Mm.
that's what I really, try to do in my own life and obviously in this connection to my own life.
I feel like that's your tagline. Come as you are.
I like it. I might have to bring that one back.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's so hard for so many people. I mean, it definitely was for me for so long. I think there's a lot of different factors as to why that is. But what did you have to let go of to get to the point now where you're like, I'm coming as I
Mm.
am?
Man, I had one big piece fall in, and I'm sure it's more of it's not even a piece, there's just levels to this, right?
Yeah.
And I just woke up one morning and I was like, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. And of course I care. Of course I care, but not to the point where I'm not going to speak my truth. And I think
Right.
I was even holding back a little in certain spaces. And I was like, I need people to know who I am so they can know if they want to show up. And that's true
Mm.
online and in person. It's like you need to, well, first of all, if people are like, where are my people? If you're not being real, your right people aren't going to find you. And so, I believe a lot of like weird, controversial, esoteric things. And I need people to know that if they're in my ethos, that we're going to be discussing these, we're going to be open to them. So that was like one of the final pieces. I mean, I think you just have to continually let go of any story that keeps you from saying what you need to
Right.
say or speaking your truth or asking for what you want. If you stay in that story, you're never going to get it because you don't believe you can. You just have to keep sort of like flirting with the edge.
Yeah. Oh, I love the word choice there, flirting with the edge. That felt flavorful as I was saying it, as I was hearing it. I'm here for it. Oh my God. It's weird too because again, synchronistically, like I had that moment actually relatively like not that long ago, put it that
Right.
way. It was maybe like a month ago, where I woke up and had that feeling. And it's still a practice for me, very much so. So I'll post something and immediately there'll be a little bit of a knee jerk of like, oh, was that too much? Kind of like what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I think so much of that is this fear of being challenged, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's this fear of being challenged. And I wonder, because you post as you post and you come as you are, how often do you get challenged?
Not a lot, to be honest.
Ah,
And
I love
I
that.
don't
Okay.
know if that's just like my energetic people got my back, or if I just believe
Yes.
so confidently in what I, the interesting thing about the people that challenge me is that they're people that kind of know me, honestly. Like every once in a while
Mm,
I'll get someone who says something really offhanded, and to me it shows more about them than me.
right.
Sorry, I lost the train of thought. What
No,
was the
it's okay.
question?
You being challenged, do you often
Oh,
get
how do I deal
challenged?
with that? You
Mm-hmm.
know, sometimes I bristle back, but I think it's good because I've had, over the course of the last 2 years, when everything's been happening, I've been increasingly vocal about how what I think's happening and what we need to
Yeah.
be aware of and how we should still be able to question. And it's not a popular time to do that. So I think in that time, honestly, maybe 6 people have like, and no one even like fully shows
Wow.
their ass. They're just like, I feel like if people have a lot to say, if they have enough to say to where they can write several paragraphs, we're telling a collective story. Like I
Oh.
can't tell your facet of the story, and you can't be upset with me for not reflecting how you feel about what's going on in Palestine. You need to come forward and tell your story. And so if people write me a few paragraphs, I know they're standing on that edge and they really want to be vocal, and I'm like, go, do
Yeah.
it. Like, don't come in my inbox and get
Yeah.
mad at me because you're not talking. Talk. Like,
Trying to get me to repost your essays.
exactly. It's so, but we all have backwards ways of getting our needs met. But I especially know
Yes.
those people are really ready to like step into their voice, because that's how I was before I started liberating the throat chakra, just like saying
Mm.
what I need to say. And it feels really good to, inhabit that part of my life.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I resonate so deep with that. Because and it's interesting too, because I think people often do that because they don't expect to have their experience validated either. They
Yeah.
almost expect you to come back and like with force and like, no, you're wrong and whatever. This happened to me the other day. I posted a quote unquote controversial reel, and I was getting comments, and I was just sort of like going in there like validating. Like one person was like, I'm still dying. They were like, you're the last person to be giving that kind of advice. And to me, it's never advice, right? It's just knowledge. This is my truth. You take
Yeah.
what. And so
Yeah.
I write back and I'm like, you're right. I'm the
Yeah.
last. It's the internet. Like, you're so right. And it's always like that, where I'm just like, I'm a genius. Like, I
Oh,
know
you
this.
are. Neutralize the energy. And that's exactly
Yes.
it. It's like you can pour, and I've definitely poured, gasoline on the situation, but that's such a neutral, peaceful. It's like, what does someone have to say back to that? And if they
Yeah.
do, they're obviously still in an argument with themselves, and you can just, they
My
can go
comments
on.
got real quiet afterwards. So, but like, it's almost one of those things where like they have no fight, because there is no fight. Like, I think that's what
Yeah.
I love so much about it, and what I love so much about the internet and people who are kind of like, I don't want to say stewards or guardians of the internet, because that sounds like gatekeepers, but who are,
No, it is so good because guess what? Now we all, like, I literally think of my space as a radio station. And when I
ooh,
leave here, I'm going to
yes.
be propagandized all day long. And you know what basically they're going to tell me? Hey, lady, get some plastic surgery. You're nothing without a husband. Go out and make some. They're literally going to
Yes.
program me. So this is my radio station. I get to play the music I want. I get to say the things I want. And it feels really good to be a voice instead of just consuming what they're telling me I should be
Yes.
consuming.
Oh my
So
God. Yes. Like that. I needed to hear that from me personally. I don't know about y'all in the comments, but I needed to hear that, because it's so true. Like, it's our own unique frequency
right.
broadcasting out, and it gets to be as polluted or diluted as we allow it to be. And I think that's the thing, is yours also comes across as very pure. It's just, this is what it is. Um, does that reflect kind of what's going on behind the scenes, behind the camera? Do you also do the same, in your living space, for example? you know, you're very cautious
I
maybe
should give
about
you a
what's in it.
tour. Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm pretty much what you see is what you get. I don't, you know, I don't hold a whole lot back, even though I feel like people are like, she's a mystery. You know, I'm like a
Yeah.
cat. I like my little home. I like knowing people for a long time. Like I literally just got a desk in my house, and for like a week I wanted to fight it. I was like, why are you here? Oh, I want you to be here. Like, you know, it just like when someone's like, you're gonna love this person, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just such a house cat. And yeah, I'm what you see is what you get. And it took that slow, steady burn for me to be able to even do this. If I thought like, oh my God, 7 years ago, if I told myself this is what you'd be doing, I would be like, there's no way. I couldn't have fathomed it. So it's fun to know that we're going to continue to evolve outside of our ideas of ourselves, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you say that you're like completely different from even like how
Yeah,
radically different do
yeah,
you get in
yeah. I heard a story that was talking about if you're with someone for a long time, especially if she's like you know, identifying as a woman. Not that men don't change, but like he felt like he was married to 9 different women in their lifetime, and they had been
I,
together. And I
I
feel
love
like I've
that.
been at least half dozen, you
Yeah.
know, and I still have like halfway to go.
I was gonna say
So
the number that popped in my head was 5. I've definitely been at least 5 up until this point. Oh my God, Lord help us all as we evolve even more. And I'm fairly young also, so I can't even imagine, you know.
exactly. I mean, you're just going to be like levitating somewhere. Like your star is going to be insanely bright. I'm so glad we're chatting.
I know
Yeah,
people are loving this conversation too. It always makes me so happy. I always know, like, you know, I have a question for you. What made you say yes? Because I'm some random bitch on the internet, and I was like, hey.
listen, it's the way you asked. I'm like
Mm.
all about how people ask, you know?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
if you're going to say something about something I posted and it's cliched and dumb, go away. But if it's like, if it makes me think, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I would want to talk to this person. And so I felt like the way that you approached me was something I just felt a yes. And I really just kind
Yeah.
of go with my gut on it. But yeah, I think a lot of it's like how you're approached.
I think that's the same for me, even when I'm reaching out to people to talk to, even in the response, because the way you respond to me, I was like, oh, it's going to be an amazing conversation. Because you know when people are getting in their head, when something like that, like it's an opportunity, you know, and it's not going to bust my balls if you don't want to join
Yeah.
in, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm not going to get mad, but some people get really in their head about it, and those are the people that I can instantly tell, okay, we're not going to have so
Yeah.
maybe we won't
Chemistry.
do that. Yeah, exactly.
Chemistry is so important. And I'm glad that we have it because I've been like lightly dating. Let's just say I've been lightly dating. And I'm over the phase of my life where I think it has to be like intoxicating and it has to be like dripping and like, you know, that
Yeah.
desire.
Mm-hmm.
But like this chemistry, just like we know, like we're
Right.
chatting, we're laughing, it's working. And that quality you can just you never know until you're in the moment with the person. So
For sure. Wait, so you're lightly dating. I
yeah.
have questions because I haven't touched dating with a 10-foot pole in this pandemic. You know, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know about all y'all.
Yeah.
Um, and I've barely been outside. I'm also like in that weird space because you said you're an introvert. I'm like, oh, introvert, extrovert. I'm like right on the cusp of both. So a
Yeah.
lot of the time I do need that time to myself, and I like being independent and all of that. And I think this has just been a really awesome time to explore that. So I haven't really thought about dating. What has it been like? What's your experience been like so far as you've dipped your toes in?
Well, you know, I did say very lightly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, after I've been married, so that, you know, that was one of my past lives.
Okay.
And
Okay.
sort of getting back out there was more important than it needing to feel or look a certain way. Because I think I
Okay.
was really into that before. And I'm like, what if I broke all my own rules and like respectfully honored my boundaries around being kind
Yeah.
of a house cat, but kind of got out there. So I've been in that, and it's been nice just to have conversations with people and remember that I can do it, you know, that I've not been so
Mm.
at home so long that I'm just like, what do I do? And maybe it's
Yeah.
because I'm connecting with people so much in this way that it makes me feel fed. Not totally, because there's nothing like sitting across from a person. But
Yeah.
people will be like, it's trash out there. It's, I don't have anything to say like that. I'm also not on dating apps like swiping and meeting a ton of people and getting a
That was
headache.
gonna be my next question, was like, how are you meeting the people?
Well, Instagram is a little bit of a, it's a cat. There's a little net there, right? So
okay. I didn't
it's
know that.
not it's not like a dating app, but it's like an opportunity to like see people, connect with people. I'm actually in this whole 90-day experiment with synchronicity to see if that's a force that you can kind of flirt with and get to work in
I
your
love
favor.
that.
So I've never been on an app. I don't think I ever will. Who knows? I could be on one next week. But part of the 90-day thing was to not be on any apps and just to let your magnetism call in opportunities to date.
That's what I'm playing with right now professionally. Like
No.
the experimentation of how much do I put forward my own agenda? How much do I lean back? What's the right ratio for me?
Yeah.
And I love that you're doing it in something so personal. So I'm gonna put a pin on something, because you said you were married before.
Yeah.
And most people would be really jaded about going back into things.
Jaded folks. I'm just not jaded. I'm not jaded.
I don't think you are. What's
I will literally get back on almost any horse, because to me, my freedom is better than living in fear, I think. It just boils down to that for me. There's some people that, like, cannabis is a friend of mine, and now that she is, so many people are like, I had that one bad experience, I'll just never do it again.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, what if you said that about everything? Who and what would you be? So, I'm not a fool either. So let's just put that out there. I'm not gonna like.
Can we get a quote? As soon as I get a social media person on this account doing some fancy things for me, that's gonna be the quote. I'm not a fool either.
My mom is here in spirit. Literally, that was my mother's voice that just came out of me. But yeah. So I walk the line in a way that I think, it makes myself proud. But yeah, I just think you have to get back on the horse, and the more of a good attitude you have about your experience, it's just all going to come back. It's all about perspective and mindset. And I don't play around with I just don't get down for too long. I just got to pick myself back up. I don't know if that's just because, where I came from, who I came from, but I've had that pick me up spirit my whole life. So
yes, just dust it off and keep it moving.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you also give yourself time to emotionally process. And I feel like, given how I feel in tune you are and intuitive you are, I think that's another aspect of it, is just how willing you probably are to let yourself experience the distress or the disappointment or whatever it is. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'll tell you my way. Okay. So plant medicine has come into my life for this very reason, because I'm just merging my like heavenly etheric self with more of my grounded self, knowing that the human body does need to grieve more. And I don't feel like I've avoided it. I've let it happen, but I also can just be, I don't know, I feel like some stuff is catching up with me now. And so it wasn't willful. So that's the thing I want to say to people as they're like in their own journey. It's like, even if it took you a while to pick yourself back up, because that does happen too. I'm not negating that.
Yeah.
And, for me, it was my mom died 7 years ago. I left my marriage. It really took me like 3 or 4 years, and maybe even a full 7, just to like come back to life in a way. It just like grief has its weight, and it doesn't look like, that was what makes me so mad. It doesn't look like the depression commercials that they put out there, like,
oh my God,
it's so exaggerated, but it's a different feeling. And as Jim Carrey says, it's your avatar wishing for change, and and it's actually a force that can move you into something that's better for you. So
the timing of that too, though, like you said, 7 years, this was the beginning of the platform. 7 years, death happens. 7 years, you lose a marriage, or you experience the loss of a marriage, and now here you are in a completely different place. That's kind of extraordinary.
It is. And, like I said, some of the work that I did is I put myself into connection with sacred plants whose job it was to reveal those things to you, because I feel like we can be so clever. And it was something that I always bookmarked. I very much grew up very Christian and sheltered, and that kind of worked for me until I was like, wait, God's too big for this church. I know there's something more out there. And so that brought me on this whole journey, adventure, if you will. And
Mm.
I have to talk about what plant medicine is. Help me grieve. Like, I don't even know if I'd be holding a tiny mic with you
Yes.
right now if I hadn't worked with some of these plants and
Tell me more
these
about this, because I
spirits.
saw this start to pop up in your platform recently and I've been curious about it. What's been so awakening for you on that?
Well, again, it's part of the 7-year cycle, but I think growing up, I had a few sort of metaphysical experiences that I had no reference point for. And
Mm.
I just let some of those questions die in me because I didn't really see anyone else, at least in my immediate people, asking these like big, deep, probing questions, and it just wouldn't stop. And so, that journey led me into ayahuasca and working with toad medicine and really like challenging the edges of reality, because I always felt like there was more. And I had these experiences where there was more. And then I felt like when to me, you're going in and you're putting your spiritual vision on. When I saw life through that, I was like, oh, it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I know why I'm here, and it's almost like a near death experience, I feel like, because the way that it's being portrayed now, I feel like there's people that do it over and over and over again. And not that I'm like some, I'm judgment police or know how people are living their lives, but I'm like, I had an experience that literally is not quantifiable, and everything about this space
Mm.
is quantifiable. So when I came back, I was changed and I felt like even more of a black sheep. I'm like, how do you integrate back into this society
Right.
when you know that there's so many more layers that no one's even talking about? It was just wild to me.
Mm.
I was like, who are my people? Where are my people? And like, what? you know? Come on, let's do
Anybody
this
else
thing.
seeing this? Does anybody else recognize this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God,
So.
people can't stop talking about your tiny mic. So I'm getting, because they're like, I'm getting distracted. I'm like, now I'm getting distracted by your host. So let's call it out.
Well,
Again.
okay, so listen, as an introvert, I realized why Mr. T had the big necklaces on, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just like, I'm up here. I need like, this gives me like the grounding to be here and to just like, I feel like I've been showing up more fully me than I ever have. And it's because my inner child's happy. So my bitch likes
Yes.
little Mike. She likes polka dots,
Yes. It's like these are these necklaces. My bougie bitch is happy.
Exactly. You need to make that thing inside you happy that loves creative expression. And we all have it. And like the next chapter of my life is dedicated to creativity, but not in the way that we've like stereotyped it to this tiny facet of artists, but if we're part of the creator, as the creation, we have the same abilities, and that can translate into every area of your life and making it better. It's not just like for artists, painters, or singers, although those are sort of the languages of the soul. But
Mm.
yeah, you got to make your inner child happy. You just got to do it.
So that's gonna be the whole focus in this next 7-year cycles that we're gonna.
Well, yeah, creativity. If I had to like,
Mm.
I'm gonna think of something that's real clever, but right
Yeah,
now it's
that was
creativity.
clever. That of itself, I was rocked.
Oh my goodness.
Plant medicines like Aya reminds me of Easter eggs in video games. They reveal the hidden. Ooh.
Yes.
Your people find you when you free yourself. Yes.
That's exactly
How
right.
do you find your people? Oy vey.
Just be yourself, like whatever that
Mm.
is. And here's the thing that you find your people, then your people change, unless they're
Yeah.
kind of on a similar trajectory where, and we're all going at the right pace. Like some of us our souls want a turtle pace, and some of us are like just raring to go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's always pioneers, and then there's always settlers. I know those terms are a little edgy, so just bear with me. But there's always people at the front that are like, I think I like being at the front of the roller coaster. And there's some
Mm-hmm.
people that are like, no, I'm gonna be back here. You go see if you're gonna die, and then when you don't, I'll go up
Yes.
here.
Yes.
So this is what feels good to my soul. And it's not a pace, it's a feeling. And I think if you just continue to let that inner muse invite you forward, you're always going to find people. Yeah, I think you find your people by being your people, and also realize that depending on, there are a lot of us, I will say that.
Yeah.
But you know, we're talking about some things that a lot of people would call trash or hooey, or they would just be totally turned off. So I'm only talking to the people that are into it.
Tell us more.
Yeah, I just want to be loved at this point. And I'm like, you know what? No
Yes,
toleration.
don't go looking for the hate. I love that.
And even just being like tolerated or sort of like, oh, it's okay. Like, I really want people that are like, yeah.
Obsessed. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, I'm a Scorpio. I want all of your obsession, you know? I want, like, I'm obsessed, and that's why you get so much of me. That's why, and I'm single with no kids. That's why also you get so much of me. But like, yeah, there's something special about a Scorpio that loves, we just like it when people really love us.
Yes. Yes, you find your people by being your people. I love you, my favorite person on the gram for sure. I mean, like, let's keep that love coming, y'all.
I just want a big party with all of us.
Yes.
I just think it would be the best.
I think that's what's so fun about the internet, because I think so many people, I was talking about this with one of the other guests I had on the show, but she was saying the same thing. Like, I love the internet because it's like a mad tea party. And I think so many people don't know how to handle that wildness.
I can't believe I didn't do a filter. That's like,
oh yeah, I'm all over filter life. I actually have to upload a few more onto this platform because I'm obsessed with all of the fun ways that you can express yourself.
Me too.
So tea party, wild thing, internet, uncontrollable, untamable, and you never know what shape, size, kind of person you're going to receive in your world. Does that ever give you anxiety, like wondering who you're going to talk to or who you're going to
No, not anxiety. It's actually more excitement than anything, I think. There's definitely, if I had to say, it would be more of a feeling of fear than like anxious. Not really. I just let it fly. And sometimes I'll hold things back, and then I'll have a fuck it moment where I'm like, oh, what do I even care? And then I post it, and there's just so much space, so much more space in my world. And I think sometimes we might sort of put something out there, especially on the internet, and then the feedback will be really bad, but we survived it. Like, to me, it's like, if that's the worst thing that ever happened, and you're still walking around breathing and there's opportunity, like you can come back stronger, harder, better, in whatever way you want. Maybe you felt like, actually, I'm not even done. Or maybe you felt like, okay, I want to actually offer, you know, an explanation of why I said what I said. However it happens, I think space is created when you give yourself that permission. You know, if you're like, oh, should I not? Yeah, you probably should.
You probably should, yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually been practicing explaining a whole lot less. Like, I think about it sometimes, but that was always what I did. You know what I mean? Like, if we're talking about living so many lives and being so many different kinds of people and interacting with so many different kinds of people, the through line was always, let me trip over my words in a hurry to try to get you to relax so that you don't attack me and I'm all right, you know?
Yeah, less is more in that sense. And I think it serves everyone better, because once you have that initial bristle, someone said something to you, you're triggered. For me, it's like, okay, now where do I feel it in the body? And these are just techniques I've learned. Where do I feel it? Yes. Is this a familiar feeling? Yes. And can I trace it back to its source? And if not, it's okay. But just give yourself that initial time to be pissed off and wonder who and why you're pissed off before you bring it to that person. You know what I mean? Like, we have to, we all have to
clean up your own shit, people.
Exactly. We all have to mature a little bit, you know, like the internet doesn't have to be a dumping ground. We can handle ourselves, you know, and if we take a minute and we take a beat, we still want to come back. I bet you the tone of that is going to be so much more in alignment with openness, because if you're just wanting to have a fight, like, I don't know, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that.
I'm a lover, not a fighter. You're a Scorpio, not a fighter.
Thank you.
Like, I'm a Leo just trying to lean back and just feel the love, man. Like,
that's why I love you. Oh, Leos are like my kryptonite. Is that what it is? Like, okay, so my dad's a Leo. My husband is a Leo. That's what I call my former husband.
No, you didn't.
Yes, my husband is a Leo. Like, almost every man that I've loved has been a Leo.
Oh my God. It's so
I love
funny
that fire.
Because I have fire. My moon is Libra.
Okay.
And my dad's a Libra, and he's a whole
Okay.
hot mess. So it's constantly like using him as a teacher. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not going down that path. No, we're not doing that today.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cute. I'm
Yeah.
Scorpio sun, moon, Virgo rising. So
Okay. Virgos, I think, are a little bit of my kryptonite for sure.
yeah.
That
Okay.
Aries,
Interesting.
Taurus, yeah, it's weird. Yeah, that's what I've noticed. People I've dated, Virgo. Don't know why.
I like it. I like it. Virgos are a specific kind of person.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's real weird. Did she say my husband? I'm dead. Right? I
Yes.
lost it. I couldn't handle it.
Yes. I did not coin that. Often I coin a thing, and I just want to be honest, I did not coin that. But it was on like a little known reality show. So I fully took it and I've run with it the entire time because
Please do.
none of the
Hashtag
other,
husband.
exactly, none of the other language felt like what had happened to us. So I didn't want to be all Gwyneth Paltrow and use conscious uncoupling, but it was the closest thing at the time. And so I was like, I need language that says you can still love someone and not hate them even at the end of a marriage. So
Would you say that you've released a lot of hate along this journey? Like maybe you had cause to hate this person and other people in your life, and now maybe this is all love. Do you stay focused on love? Do you experience hate? Do you allow yourself to experience hate? What's your relationship with hate?
yeah, you know what, I don't think hate exists. I think that hate is actually fear. It's just fear. It literally is just fear. And the more fear you have, the more it turns into what we now know as hate, you know? But I think how do I definitely interact with it because I interact with a lot of my own fears. But a quote that's really been getting me through this time where we all can project on each other at the moment's notice is, if there's no enemy within, there's no enemy out there. And so yeah, and also as a person who values personal power, the idea that someone outside of me has power over me is something that our angels, guides, ancestors, higher self would like us to let go of. Okay?
I love when the close-ups happen and then the mic shows up too. It's a vibe.
Listen, we tried it that way, and now everything in nature wants us to get up off our feet and realize that we're the key to the kingdom. We have to take the power back. It's not the same power we see out there. They want us to be afraid of our power. And so even using that term for most people just completely turns them off. But no, we are sparks of the divine. And so we get to have our power. And yeah, I mean, I think that that's the answer, is sort of working on yourself. Whatever comes up in you, that's where the evil, the hate, the toxicity lives. It's not this other person. So, and when you do that, you take your power back.
Sovereign beings have no need for hate. Preach. Chronically conscious. Thank you for that. That's so true. Let's not even the hate you give. Right. No, for sure. Y'all keep those comments coming. I think that's beautiful that you actually removed, I guess, like the filter that's over hate in a way, because it's such an interesting thing. And fear is such an interesting multi-pronged multiverse thing.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And so I find it interesting that you brought up fear, because I feel like one of the biggest things that is the most terrifying is authenticity, someone else's or your own, what have you. Yeah. And I'm like trying to paint the picture of where I'm going here. I'm sensing something coming through me.
I like
trying to get it together. So fear often sparks a transformation.
Yeah.
Yes. Would you agree with me on that? Yeah.
Totally. Yes.
What would you say has been the biggest fear you've experienced, and then the transformation that resulted as a result of that?
I think it's a good question. I think all fear is the fear of not existing or death. And so really it's the conversation that I've been in with myself, and actually was telling myself that the more I intertwine with the idea of, and even view death as a threshold, whatever symbol you want around this, it's the idea that we're not here. We don't know what's going to happen. It's a scary, scary feeling. And so, I think that the more that we sort of entertain ourselves at those thresholds, see who you are when you have to go into the unknown. Is there faith lacking? Do you cling to the old even when it's really, really terrible for you?
Yeah.
All of that's giving you information about how we are at these threshold moments. And you talked about gatekeepers earlier, and I think
Yeah.
in the type of society that I'd love for us to return to, there's gatekeepers at every one of those thresholds. There's guardians. There's people who let us know that there isn't anything to fear. And I think the reason that we're sort of where we are is, we're remembering, but also we've had such a great loss.
Yeah.
And that has really been weighing on me. What a great loss we've had, because we've forgotten each other in a way. We've forgotten the dream. And for those who are dreaming it back into existence, this is a huge thing that's happening. And, sometimes it's lost on me because I'm just day to day. And then sometimes it really hits me like,
yeah,
I'm up in this bitch. This is what's happening. This shit is what, like, it's crazy.
holding up my hands in the back like we in church. Yes, you're secret.
Exactly.
I'm not even a church person.
Like, listen, 2 nights ago, I had a lucid dream, which I have varying degrees of lucidity, but this was the most lucid I'd been in the dream. And listen, y'all, I projected my consciousness to a street corner where I viewed someone who I was probably remote viewing. I touched a tree. It felt just like a tree. Like, I think the more you wake up to how weird and wacky and wonderful this universe is. And there's inherently less fear because you're connected with the true pulse, the true rhythm of the universe. Like, yes, there'll probably always be human fears I have, but I think my faith in whatever that is and whatever I've experienced over time is far greater. So now I'm less controllable. Now I'm more myself. Now I'm able to interact with the universe in a totally different way. It's like, it's a win-win.
It makes you less controlling also.
Yes.
I think that's what makes you such a safe harbor, or just like us in general, when we can get to that place of, releasing control, focusing more on command, right? Also, like, this is my experience and whatever's in my command isn't my choice. It's my power, right? But letting go of control and trying to mold other people.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Using the creator's clay. Like, this is the message of creativity that I really want to spread. It's like, we have so much range with what we can create in life. And if you look out in nature and you see something that's creative and weird and you don't even know, like, who even dreamt this into being? Like, you did, I did. Like, we can, we can all evolve the species by remembering our creativity and remembering our innate ability to not just respond and not just consume, but to actually, like, use our will and our power and our love and our hearts to create something. Like, what a gift.
My God, yes. I'm just taking a moment to feel that for a second. Yes, we're so fucking powerful. And it's conversations like these that I think are so impactful to have, to remind us that we have that ability, because there's so much, like, that we believe isn't actually for us.
Exactly. Yeah. And really, that's the travesty of this time. It's not that some people have made decisions medically that you wouldn't, or some people believe there's a giant conspiracy or whatever. It's literally just some of these simple things that we've forgotten. Lets me know that, whenever I'm feeling like a weird black sheep, like, it seems like everyone's going in this direction, but I'm like looking over here. I don't know. I just think about the beauty of things that are unexplainable and not just like what we've been told or has been regurgitated to us, but like actually the parts of life that no one can explain, but that they're trying to, through these like almost archaic containers, science. I know people love science. And it's good and all that, but science is literally trying to understand how we're even walking, breathing, living. And I would rather bet on that than, I don't know, anything else really.
Yeah, and having to know the specifics of that. Like, listen, here for the science, go ahead, do your thing. Some people have a passion and vocation for that too. But yeah, I don't want to spend my life trying to fit things into boxes, you know what I mean, in order to then develop a relationship with the unknown, in order to have trust.
Exactly.
So you were talking about that also, how you have faith, right? And you have, and this is a dream, and you interact with that dream. was it evidence that got you to believe that, or did you just download that into your awareness? Did you practice it? How did you know?
How do we know? I posted something the other day and I was like, what makes a thing true? And it literally is just belief, because everyone's operating off of it, and yet our beliefs about things vary so widely, but the bottom line is belief, you know? And a part of, I think it's theosophy, this sort of like type of thought is that the only real reality has an experiential one, and everything else has been taught to us or told to us. And I think that was just something that my soul remembered. It's like, you're going to get told a lot of things, and at times you're going to buy in, you're going to believe it, you're going to experience it, but there's going to be this bigger pull towards what is not quantifiable. And I feel grateful that it hasn't been a real sticky point for me. I'm like, I just have to move this erratic way. I don't know why I'm doing this, you know, because on the outside it might look a certain way, but I think what that's kept me in connection with is my soul. And I so value a soulful existence over one that where I don't get to experience the ineffable or the mystery, where everything's like, 1 + 1 is 2, Bob. Go home.
Yeah,
you know?
so boring. Give me the flavor. like, let's be honest. I'm done with that.
Exactly.
Like, sometimes, you know what? Like, I understand the need to have a blueprint, right, for a lot of people. And I guess in some cases it could be fun to follow a blueprint. But for me personally, like, most of the time I just want to put shit on the ground and just hodgepodge it. If it ends up being a shack, I'm cool with that. If it ends up being a manor, whatever, you know.
Nice.
Like, it's just that's the experience I wanted to have. And I think that's the other big thing for me, is just like allowing that to be valid. Like, whatever experience I want to have is the one that I want to have, and it doesn't need to look like anyone else's, and other people don't have to get it, and I don't need to try to convert people into having the same experience to validate it, right?
Yep. Everything you said. And I mean, we are the creator's blueprint. So if you really want to talk about that, then I think the soul has sort of an innate plan, and you know, either we sort of align with it, or we, like, I don't know, everyone's doing it at their own pace. But there is something about bringing awareness to that there's even this process that you can be involved in co-creating. And I think once you get to that point, this is the perfect way to say it. I saw Phil Good's meme, and it said, awakening is connecting the dots. Ascension is, ascension is something where it's like,
you're gonna have to post it after.
Exactly. Awakening is connecting the dots. Ascension is like, what's the word? Almost like accepting all the polarity of it. Like, you're accepting all of it. But yeah, I'll post it. It was way better. I thought I was gonna like bring it out, but it didn't come back.
I be thinking like that too. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna say something real powerful right now. I have a quote in my head. Nah, that's not gonna work.
Practice, people. Like, honestly, my next big challenge is like doing something that I always hated, and it just like burnt me up inside. But the idea of improv, like, to me, the most powerful people in the room are the people that can just get up and say something, because all of us are so afraid. So like, when I would see a comedian, I would just be like, what's going on? How is he not shitting his pants? But then, like, also like, wow, I think that that's power, especially for maybe all of us. But I remember speaking up as a kid, and my voice would literally, like, it was the scariest thing for this little introvert who just live in imaginary worlds to like be in this world. So I think for me, I love to face my fears. And especially if at least for me, if I face a fear in a dream, suddenly it's not a monster, it's gone, or it quits chasing me. Like, we have this power. We have this power to sort of confront what is fearful, and maybe even just love it, you know? So that's my next, like, you know.
I feel like you're already on the right track, though, because this is a situation in which there is improv. Like, a lot of people ask me when I invite them on the show, they'll be like, what questions are you going to ask me? Like, they'll want to get prepared. I'm like, honey, this is a conversation. It's not, there's no script. There's no nothing. There's just like, I'm throwing you in the fire. And I'm not like, I would classify myself as a little dangerous, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I'll be asking things I can't read the room, maybe, I don't know. And I'd be like, okay, we'll talk about this, this, and this. But for the most part, I'm just interested, and allow that to be the invitation for you to like speak and share what you want to share, and trust that this is going to be a safe space. And I think intuitively, you know, like just like you were saying, when you got the invitation to be here, it was like a yes, like I'm just going to do it. So I think that's the other thing, is just like allowing yourself to believe and trust that you are taking yourself to the places that you're meant to be in, you know, and it's going to work out exactly whether it's like a terrible experience or not. It either creates a lesson or a memory. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. I think it can all be wisdom. So I think, look, Megan, she went over and looked. Okay, so awakening.
Thank you, Megan.
Awakening is connecting the dots. Ascension is integrating those dots. So there has to become a point of awareness where you're like, okay, there's a bunch of synchronicities in this life. And oh my God, when I have this thought, this thing happens. You start to like wake up in the dream, basically become lucid. And then, you know, the next level is like, you know, integrating all of those experiences, I think, into, you know, more light, more purity, more wisdom, more love, more joy, more connection, all the things that we like really all authentically want as people in this experiment.
I feel like on this journey, I'm constantly vacillating between the two. Like I'll awaken to something and then immediately want to go integrate it, and then cue the impatience as well when I'm like, I don't understand how this is supposed to work. I don't get it.
Well, you know what? It's just like birth. It's like, you know, those contractions, that like in breath, that out breath, and then sort of like even the resistance. I think it's all just a part of the process necessary to like wiggle out of the old skin into the fresh skin, at least for me. And then, you know, at that point, it's like when you put a seedling in the ground and it hasn't gained enough strength, you protect it. Like you protect ourselves. And I think that's something we remembered more in tribal times. There's like a story that I love about this woman who was grieving, and she was like just in the middle of the road, just like crying and crying. And people would just come over her and bless her, ask her if she needed water. They weren't like, this bitch crazy, get her out of here, you know, take her away. It's like, bitch is grieving for all of you who can't grieve, or who's, you know what I mean? Like this, we've forgotten so many of the important things that would really help us. And anyway, I lost my train of thought.
No, you good. Actually, this is perfect because we're still a baby account here, so we only get an hour on Instagram Live. I've learned my lesson the hard way. This happened on one other episode.
Oh, okay, so we got to go before
where it cut off.
I need you to save this. This is the first time the tiny mic has come out, so let's just kiss and talk later.
I was gonna say, like, do you have, because I love the story that you just told. So do you have something either from that experience, or just it's something in general you want to pass on to the people, let them know as we end, as we close out? What would you like to say?
Do one thing that scares you, and let me know how that went.
Oh, she said, now you gotta tell me though. I'm gonna hold you accountable. Come see me. I'm not even gonna give you instructions. Just go do it. I love it. I love it so much. I love you. I really do. Like, I feel the love on this call. I love this conversation. It was so beautiful, so fortifying, so validating, also, and invigorating. All of the things, man.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again. I'm a big fan. I'm like a big fan.
Oh my God, stop. No, tell me more about myself. I love it.
I will, Leo. We'll do it after this.
I love you. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for coming and watching and commenting and just being a part of this experience. It was so special because y'all were here as well, talking to us and just sharing your perspective. Sure. I want more of that. That's why I created this platform. So thank you. Thank y'all. You guys are amazing. Bye.
Bye.